Welcome back to HGC Korea. If you watched yesterday's matches, you might think we were living in a Cho'Gall era. We did see a lot of Cho'Gall yesterday in our first best of 5, much more absent in the second, but Malthael has been the big story.
Yep, that's right. Welcome back to the region of Cho'Galls from yesterday. We had both games. Cho'Gall 100% win rate so far in phase number 2. And we didn't really get to see any Cho'Gall actions in the other regions, so maybe we can expect that coming out from Korea a little more. And we even had the interview from MVP Black, and he specifically said Cho'Gall was one of those hidden cards for them.
Also, the second interview we saw, the people asking about the it was an interview. I can't remember who it was who was interviewed. Hong Kono maybe. I'm totally forgetting, but I can go back and check. It was L5. That's right. L5 was SC who was interviewed, of course, as they did get the reverse sweep there. And they asked about Cho'Gall, and he was like, "I'm not going to tell you if we've got Cho'Gall planned." So
seems like a lot of Korean teams are having that practice, maybe even experimenting on the day and on the fly to have a revenge. And MVP Black did get the revenge against Blossom yesterday. May not be the case for we saw lots of Malthael coming up in other regions also. He's not like broken strong, but he's very situational pick right now, I feel like.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And we'll see if he ends up being used a little bit more, if it was just kind of a yesterday situation there, as that's kind of the feel that I get. I don't know if we're really going to be seeing a whole lot of him really soon. We'll see if it ends up being the case, especially after the Uther nerfs come in next week. That might be something where we see him more often because he works so well with the Ariel. So those are prize money and everything else, but you guys already know that. It's just a reminder for everybody.
Same system from phase number 1 and from the other regions, and including all the Korean teams too. What I've been hearing is the new meta, the new patch. A lot of even the strong teams like Fnatic, Dignitas, like MVP Black, including all the Korean teams on top, are having some troubles drafting in this meta because there are so many viable heroes right now. They're top tier.
It's hard to take one drafting style and say it's the best, right? And that's one of the issues, I think, for teams that don't have quick drafting, I'd say adaptation. With a team like the MVP teams, they've always been really good at drafting and learning the new meta very quickly. L5 has been a little bit slower. TNL as well back in the day. You know, some of those members moving into L5. But here's our standings from HGC EU. Bit of a surprise to see Dignitas down there at 1-1. But everything else is, again, pretty standard. I got to wake up and Kaldor was still casting after I woke up this morning. As
well done.
Gillyweed is sick, so our thoughts go out to her. Hope she recovers soon. But Kaldor was killing it all night, all morning. And I got to see the end of NA this morning when I woke up. So,
but here's Korea and Tempest on top of the chart. I don't know why, because they're 2-1. But with more games won, of course. But today is the important one because they are going up against Miracle from the very beginning. That will likely to decide the top few. We're going to have lots of these big clashes because right now, even MVP Black does not seem perfect from what we saw yesterday.
Nobody's perfect in this new meta, man. And Korea's not even on top of the world necessarily anymore. We'll see when BlizzCon rolls around if that changes once more. But for the time being, EU is top dog. So here are our matches today. Miracle will face off against Tempest, and what's definitely our better matchup of the evening. And then Raven will face Mighty in our second best of 5. So that one should be decent, but I think the first one is going to be really good. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Here is, of course, MVP Miracle. And they had, you know, a big roster swap, bringing Judy and Jaehyun in. And Darvish, of course, leaving the team to move into Raven.
Yes, we have the camera on Jaehyun. I asked this question previously with the Malfurion nerf, which is his favorite by far compared to anything else. Is it going to affect the entire team a lot? I think the answer is yes, but we still have to unfold what today's game is going to be like. And let's see what they have prepared on this patch 26.0.
Well, the Twilight Dream obviously can still be a big impactor in the team fights, even without the Bolt later on and the lack of Cleanse. So Crazy Moo's been playing a lot of Li Ming, as you guys can see here.
Ooh.
And has also played the Nazebo, the only person to play Nazebo actually in Phase 2 currently. So So a hero that I think is still underappreciated right now. And I hope that we get to see the rise of Nazeebo again. But this is something that we've seen both MVP Black and Miracle prioritize over other DPSs of a similar nature. They're not really picking Kael'thas at all. The rest of the teams are dabbing around with that one, but Miracle's sticking almost purely to the Li Ming and their priority of DPSs. So crazy moving. Perhaps it's a hero problem for him in terms of his deep hero pool, kind of getting a little bit more shallow this season. We'll see if he can step it up here as we move into looking at their opponents, Tempest.
Yep, Tempest. And with H82 and Honkono back in the roster, they got reverse swept against L5 yesterday. They were winning 2-0. They had a good momentum, but starting from game number 3 after the break, there were some miscommunications, maybe some heroic choices there coming from Honkono and also H82. They started losing from game 3 and got reverse swept by L5. They were out macroed, and after the game, they were also talking to O Prime and said drafting got them because drafting was so hard. Also, the support pool for Hyde has been the biggest problem for them right now.
I feel like you really have to be critical of Honkono picking, for example, the Haymaker yesterday. We saw Sign flexing into the Tracer pick. The draft consistency for this team was not there yesterday. The first 2 games, they looked really solid in draft. Game 3 was a little bit questionable. I think games 4 and 5, it felt like they just fell apart. I mean, look at this. Sign playing 4 different heroes in one night. The Tracer being the most unusual of the last 5 picks here. So definitely considered to be one of the key players. Was once the main tank player of MVP Black in their period of dominance, but has not yet found the same success on Tempest. But we do have to say, and we said this many times at the end of the last phase, that he made massive improvements throughout the entire season. So definitely looking to gel with the team better now.
Yep, that's right. And H82 also picking Artanis. And his hero pool, because he had to flex into a lot of melees, and his Malthael play, sometimes he was very passive, and he could have been a little bit more aggressive, but I think that their playstyle is not matching too well right now. I want to see the old Tempest going in super aggressive with Sign diving in all the time, and they have Honkono back. So I think they just need a little more time to actually have their old color back. That's what they need right now. But they're up against Miracle, and they were up against L5 already. And going into Battleground number 1, it is Warhead Junction.
Now, this is not a massive surprise. When Cursed Hollow was removed from the map pool, we've seen Tempest ban this. We've seen other teams ban this against Miracle, against MVP Black. Yesterday, for example, was banned by Blossom. The MVP team's so known for their macro play on Cursed Hollow. It feels like the MVP teams, of course, living together in the team house, training together, having that traditional old school Korean esports training backing. They have that team house. They live together, all 10 of them. I'm sure there's been a lot of discussion in the house about how to circumvent these Cursed Hollow bans, and another large map might be the way. So they're going to go to the Warhead Junction here. Big map, a lot of macro rotations here. Controlling the warheads themselves can be very difficult to do, but if you have a good understanding of the map and its timings and even bosses, you can definitely make it happen. And this is a map we see a lot of Illidan play on, so we may see him banned here by Tempest to start things off, because I feel like Miracle is surely love to use him here, especially if he can be paired with an Abathur.
Yep, not just on this Battleground. Illidan has been banned almost all the games yesterday in Korea, and also especially in EU. We even had some interviews of EU players talking that Illidan is about as broken as he can be, because he has a global and everything in together. But let's jump into the draft.
Isn't it funny how a hero like Illidan, who's immediately banned as we expected, it can be so... It's so unchanged over the years. Very few patches, and everyone said Hunt was the worst heroic, don't pick it. It was buffed slightly at one point, but just to see how insanely suddenly he's valued without any changes, like a Nubrok, it's kind of cool to see the evolution of heroes on that.
Yeah, as we get more heroes and the new meta, as the patch changes with meta shifting, I think it's a very good, very positive side of heroes right now. And going into Abathur with a Nubrok Ariel, because other than Uther, because Malfurion was nerfed, Karazim does have the dash, does have the damage, but cannot bring in the heal. It's more about sustains right now. You need that healing And Ariel seems to be doing a fine job with the sustain on the back line and all around the teammates when you're gathered up.
Well, this is definitely presents an opportunity for H82 to play Zeratul. We've got the Abathur already, and that can really throw a wrench into the gears of any sort of combos that come out. You Void Prison the Oriole, trap her there, and then you have Zeratul ripping through whoever Oriole's trying to protect. In this case, it seems to be leaning towards a Vala as draft. We have seen Gul'dan on this map, but much less common than the Vala. Cho'Gall is still an option. I mean, I know we joked about it a lot yesterday, but when you have Oriole prioritized like this, it's definitely something that they are thinking about. They're going to pick up the Uther first, and it's going to be Greymane over the Zeratul, at least for the time being, to lock in that DPS.
They want to bring in Greymane before we go to the second ban phase. Also L5 has been really picking Ariel from the beginning too, because they know the hero pool. Of course, Hyde can play lots of things, but he's a player who does not really prefer Uther over others. And in this meta where he kind of has to pick Uther because Uther is just top tier, which is not really meshing in with the entire team too much. That's what I felt after watching and commentating yesterday's games. And let's see if Hyde can play better Uther with the entire teamwork today.
Well, Zeratul is banned here as well. Going back to what I was saying earlier, you have the Abathur. You know HG2's proclivity to play the hero. Not as much in recent times, but now Illidan almost perma-banned with Genji, then that's when this is left open. And you have to give some consideration, some respect to H82's Zeratul, so you have that ban coming in. A really strong ban here for Miracle. For Tempest, there's definitely the consideration now to ban the Vala, but also to ban the Cho'Gall. And I know they're thinking about it here. The questions in Tempest's mind is we've been studying, we've been preparing. They saw SC's interview yesterday where he's like, I'm not telling you if we're going to be playing Cho'Gall. He's got to be thinking, is this going to be it? Is this the time on this map? I don't think so. I don't think so. But it's definitely something that they're considering. They will remove the false stat instead, leaning towards that macro-oriented play for Miracle. And it's a little bit of an awkward draft now when you run the Ariel, where you may have to have Dahaka here if you're really looking for the global on this map. And it doesn't really synergize very well with the Ariel. So I'm a little bit concerned for Miracle now with the false stat ban.
And that's why they will bring in Cassia for the auto attack and some range damage too also. And Rehgar with the roaming potential, they're bringing in a lot of movement speed into the map, as they're also hiding the fifth one for the last pick. It can be Dehaka if they choose to do so with the double tank front line. They will lack in the damage though. It seems like they need another DPS coming in.
Well, my theory on the Rehgar pick is just simply that he will move into Wolf Run. He'll have Feral Heart. He will roam the map quite heavily. He's going to give some extra rotational power. Miracle likes Rehgar specifically on Cursed Hollow. I think they'll use him similarly here to steal some Hellbat caps or the Raven caps. Use those to pressure the lanes on this massive map to draw attention away from the Warheads. So for Greymane, will there be a secondary support? Are they going to go all in on this? Remember, Honkono plays Wizened Duelist Greymane. He's not played any other type of Greymane throughout this tournament.
Let's see if he has changed for today's match. And also, H82's Artanis, we've seen Artanis used for camping most of the times, but not going to be this case.
So they're going to bring the Li Ming instead of a potential Tassadar pick or a Zarya pick we could have maybe seen. Pretty unlikely. The Tassadar pick much more likely. And the Muradin, so Sign's going to play an old favorite here. It's crazy to imagine Sign and Honkono on the same team, because both of them are so good at this hero, but obviously it will be Honkono on the Greymane. What are you thinking for the Ariel hero here? Are they just going to bring the Vala into this one? It feels a little bit weak.
I think even more so, as you mentioned, Tassadar, because Li Ming's on the other side, and if Greymane also go for the throw, which will give resets. So lots of resets actually available for Tempest's side. So bringing that Tassadar for the extra shielding. And it seems like Honkono's having a lot of fun in this draft.
It's crazy moving down here. It looks like they wanted to play an unusual pick.
They can't pick Cho'Gall here.
It's like Jaina. He's like, you want me to play Jaina?
That's his old favorite, yes.
He's like 2015, like let's go. He doesn't want to do it. And
they're gonna do it! Vikings!
They're gonna do Lost Vikings. Here we go. First time. All right, well, this Zeratul ban is even stronger now when you think about it. I don't know if this was originally pre-planned, just based on Crazy Moving's face. I don't think so. This really cheapens the Ariel pick, though, as Cassia can build Hope decently quickly, especially when she uses Fend, but Otherwise, you don't have a traditional, very quick DPS player that's going to have that hope coming in consistently. So it's going to be about the split soak. That's their quote-unquote global, is going to be the Lost Vikings. Falstad removed. They couldn't draft the Dahaka, so we are going into what could be a crazy first game here on Warhead Junction. Li Ming against the Vikings. Resets galore. A big possibility here. Let's jump into game number 1. In blue, of course, it's not Crazy Moving on it. It's Sniper on the Lost Vikings. Crazy Moving will be on Cassia. Jaehyun on Ariel. Dami on Rhaegar. And Judy on Anubarak. So this is really crazy.
And in red, Tempest, Hyde on Uther, Honkono on Li Ming, Lockdown on Avatar, Sign on Morden, and H82 on Greymane. Honkono on Li Ming.
I mean, I can accept
we're seeing,
this.
Since yesterday, we're seeing everything that we wanted to see.
I can accept this. H82's played the Greymane before, and they're going to dive the top lane here. This is what you have to do against Vikings. You have to heavily push towers to punish the fact that Vikings will split soak. So you need to try to push against that. The problem is that Miracle is already doing the same, so they're going to get soak and get this. The Abathur pick is going to help mitigate the extra soak that's in the mid lane. Now, let's talk about the double support here. The protection is going to be on Crazy Moving's Cassia, who's now playing this ranged DPS that plays almost like a melee, you could really argue. And it's going to have a lot of support with Rhaegar there. It's going to be Lightning Bond. So this is a Fend build coming out from Cassia. We're going to see big dive-ins, the heavy explosive attacks that are going to come with that. And I mean, this is a little bit crazy. I don't particularly really like the draft, but you could see the ideas behind it. The quick clears that come in from Rhaegar.
Miracle's moving in. Are we going for the core? That's my dream, man.
I don't know about this. All right,
they're going in.
They're going in, indeed. Abathur's going to slow this down a little
Tempest
bit.
Speed.
I went back. Not going to let the race continue. But it's going to cost them a lot of soak in the top lane, obviously, as Lost Vikings give some extra value. So the strategy here is to force a back or try to race here. Well, you always are going to be ahead in EXP because of the Vikings. And they got more damage done as a result. Not a massive EXP lead, though, because Abathur did mitigate that in the mid lane. In terms of team fighting, though, this team doesn't look exceptionally strong. You have Cassia who could dive in, do that extra Fen damage. She's got decent protection. She'll be able to build help fairly quickly with those Fens when she goes in. But the secondary support here with Rhaegar, we might even see Bloodlust. I'm not 100% certain. I haven't quite ever seen anything like this before in my Heroes casting career. So we'll see. Sniper will lose Eric down here, pretty certainly. Will be the first Viking to die, and first blood.
And I think you may be right about that. We may actually see Bloodlust coming out.
It's definitely not going to be anything like Resurrect or anything. Let's be clear on that.
Never know. We have seen everything, a bit of everything since yesterday. Miracle with the sustain. It's very hard for them to actually go for the kill. So they will more likely just go for the push with Cassia with all the range and use a Nubarak not for the engage, to actually as a defensive tool to make the space for Cassia to disengage and have the Lost Vikings just pushing all lanes to try to counter the Avatar to soak up all the EXP. I think that's Miracle's strategy right now against Tempest.
Well, I think that you're pretty spot on. I'm curious to see how Tempest is going to deal with this. We had questions going into the Greymane pick with the solo support, but it's not Honkono playing it. It's not Wiz and Duelist. It's going to be the Cocktail build, which is pretty reasonable considering they're up against the Lost Vikings. We do have, of course, the bribe stacks coming in to help make sure they have map control with these pushes from the Vikings. Also, the mercenary camp control, which has been actually given to Tempest because they've basically just been roaming as 4 to punish the Vikings. This is the toughest map to actually do that on because of the distance between lanes and how large it is. But it's so the Vikings are going to get more value, right? This works out a lot better on, say, like Garden Terror or whatever that map is called. Terror of the Garden Tower. We don't talk about that map here.
At least it's not Hanamura, okay? It's all good. We're all good. We're in Warhead Junction.
That's not in the hero pool. I read in the map pool. So yeah, on Garden Terror you'd see a lot this type of 4-man rotating from Tempest would be a lot more effective. It's kind of funny because Miracle is like taking the camp of Tempest. Tempest took the camp of Miracle. No one on Tempest cleared that camp yet, actually, despite the fact they have Greymane, whereas Vikings are getting the extra soak in the bot lane. And Vikings obviously split to get the objective, which is the warheads here. So we haven't talked too much about that, but that's another really big boon that Miracle has on their side, with the Vikings being able to grab multiple warheads at once. And also delay. You know, Eric can run over very quickly, delay, you know, a bunch of channeling, and then the team can rotate in to deny. Even in EXP right now, Structures a lead for Tempest just slightly. And it's hard to really say where this game is going, but I feel like the longer it goes on, once we see 10 for Tempest, they're going to have the advantage.
Yeah, that's the time they want to go engage and try to make the team fights so they can win the team fight. But Miracle, they will do everything to not fight, actually. So they will make sure they disengage safely without losing too many of their own members, so that Viking would be macroing and getting all those warheads for themselves, and Hyde again caught in a very aggressive positioning.
They'll be all right in the end of the day. They're going to invade this, though, and I don't think that Tempest is going to be
yeah.
holding it. And look, this is the power of the Vikings. You got 2 Vikings channeling the warheads here, and Tempest is even struggling to maintain theirs. They are going to dive in now deep, but Judy helping Peel here. Sign and everybody else completely blinded in the choke point. The Cassia pick showing value now as the passive blind goes off. Desperately now, we are seeing Sign try to escape. He has the symbiote, but it's not going to be enough. The Fend will finish him off. The Miracle is going to get all 3 warheads from this. No way Tempest can deny. They can slow this down, you know, try to interrupt the channel, but not going to work out in the end. JN will grab this. 3-0 on warheads now. Control for Miracle. Tempest just needs to hold on a bit longer to get 10. They're struggling right now.
And sneaky Vikings here. Going for the bottom 4. Oh, keep already. This is going in favor of Miracle, of course. They wanted to do this entirely, and Tempest is just falling behind the tempo right now. And they are soaking for 10, but I'm sure Miracle would do everything to just disengage, as I mentioned before.
No, I think if Miracle can get a keep in the next few minutes, like by, I'd say, 8:30, 9 minutes into the game, I think they'll be able to take a lead into this and still make this composition work. I think if they fail to do that, though, when Tempest starts to catch up, beef up their talents, they're going to have the more powerful team fighting comp. You have powerful things like Mirror Ball coming in. Their resets coming out from Liming, and larger, longer team fights are going to be very important. Go for the throat, can get a reset easily off of a Viking. So these are the things that Tempest have, these tools that they have, and Miracle doesn't really have much of an answer for this. It is going to be play again for the Vikings, not going to see longboat raid or anything like that, because the goal is not to team fight, it's just to have these Vikings on the map for as long as possible.
And Heidi is going aggressive because he has Storm available on himself. He is running into the Miracle side right now because that's what he's trying to do, get the stun. And Miracle, because they have Rehgar now, they have Cleanse, they have Ancestral, so much protection and healing coming out for Cassia, or even the Nubarak in the front line. They will never die. Well, that's the biggest problem for Tempest. They are looking for the kills. Go for the throat, needs a reset. And Liming, of course, you need that reset. But if you cannot get the kill, you will not win the team fight at all.
Definitely not. Now, Sniper, as you can see here, is kind of split pushing bottom. This is the keep I was talking about they really need. Going to see H82 actually clone, lockdown clone H82. The double Greymanes here for looking for the boss clear. This is insanely risky, but if unscouted, this can work. The bigger problem is really going to be that bot keep. They need to keep that alive. The Greymane could clear camps insanely quickly when you have the extra bonus scaling from Abathur with the clone. You could actually do this sneaky little timing in the top lane, so that's actually really well done. Right now, every Miracle's probably scratching their heads, eventually realizing what happened there. And the Viking will be pushed away. The keep is saved, so nice moves here by Tempest. Good rotation, a greedy play, but it pays off big time. Clone already going to be back up for the next fight.
Seems like they will also soak in for 13 before the fight. Only 2.
So they want this keep. They need this keep. Realistically, at this point, they were nearing that 9-minute mark I was talking about. 13 talents getting closer and closer here for Tempest. Miracle does have the advantage in EXP currently. We see Judy dodges the Stormbolt, or should I say Sign misses it there. Does not connect. And that's actually quite huge. And here's the channels.
That's the power of the Lost Vikings here. And Tempest right now losing the macro fights. It's exactly the same as we saw before. What we did not really... What did he just do? He just canceled on his own, but the target is on to Crazy Moving. Cocoon will be used, but he is staying very safe.
Honkono! Way too aggressive with that Disintegrate. We do see the Divine Storm coming out. Crazy Moving gets the Ancestral. It's not Bloodlust here, so the extra protection coming in for the Cassia with the double support. All the heals coming in from Jaehyun as well. Finally, they're going to get this keep. The boss as well was eventually cleared by Olaf, only got half the top keep, so this is a massive trade in favor of Miracle, and this is exactly what they needed. If they didn't get this, if they got pushed away or team wiped, then it would have been disastrous. They keep their top keep alive, again, only with Olaf, which is kind of crazy. Just the boss didn't have that much scaling here. And they have this extra push. They have the EXP lead, and with the warheads they have and that catapult pressure, eventually if they stockpile warheads, they will have a moment where they can drop 3 warheads on the core, end the game, just dive it. They're going to have the talent tier advantage too. Nearly 2 talent tiers ahead for just a moment here, but Tempest will lock in that 13.
This is unbelievable what we are watching. Double support with the Lost Vikings, Cassia and Uberok. Okay, that's
no, scratch the Anubarak part.
Yeah, cross that part now. But with the Greymane, this is the way. If they want to catch into the macro fight, they have to take the boss. They have to risk. It's not much of a risk without Anubarak on the other side, without the Cocoon.
So because Sniper bribed both camps, look at this pressure in the bot lane. There's going to be a massive stacked up catapult attack if Tempest doesn't rotate down to deal with this. They get the boss with that Anubarak pick, but there's so much map rotation forced by all these camp takes. The core is soon to be under attack by a lot of catapults. I mean, the Hellbats aren't the craziest thing. It's not the worst thing in the world to have the Hellbats on your core, but it is going to stack up, as you can see here. They buy some time for the catapults to get in range. They're locked onto the core already here. So a nice minion wave there, and another catapult to join soon. This boss completely ignored for the most part by MVP Miracle, Judy, and Sniper. Gonna tag team this one. They already have the aggro of 1 catapult, but this is an advantage for Miracle that is waning at this point. The rotations for Tempest, they clear out the caps. They're no longer pressured by that in the bot lane. And Miracle isn't able to accomplish anything with the time that Tempest spent to clear those.
Yep, that's right. They're making the macro play really working. Tempest was falling behind L5's macro play again yesterday, and Hyde coming in from the side, and everyone in the world knows that he's coming for that Divine Storm. It's as if he's screaming for, I'm gonna press this R button when I get close, and then Ariel just uses the Detainment Strike, and then he just goes away to the wall. Maybe he'll get stunned, die even before using that Storm. So right now, Tempest, it's all up to Sign. Really jumping over the wall, hitting that perfect Stone Bolt onto the perfect hero, which is basically, it seems like Crazy Moving, but more so, they should be going for the support to really bring down the sustain from the other side.
Easier said than done though in these fights. Honkono used Disintegrate insanely early, now not available to clear this Cocoon, which is really annoying. Sign here, very, very low. Finally, we see Hyde pop out of the Cocoon. A nuke is used in the fight here, the Ancestral. Everything used to protect Crazy Moving, but it's not enough. Already, many members dying here. The reset's coming in from the Lost Vikings as Honkono mops him up. Dami on the retreat here. His first game of Rhaegar, and that might be his last death on the hero. May never play it again, but he goes down. Warhead control now for Tempest. They even up the talent tiers and still are only 1 keep down. It's still very frustrating for them, but they're finally starting to show that longer, later team fighting. Both support ultimates stacked up there as well. The heroics being used on Crazy Moving, the Aegis and the Ancestral, not really well timed. But even with Hyde, for the majority of that fight in the Cocoon, Honkono didn't have the Disintegrate to knock him out. They still just couldn't break through what Tempest had to offer.
A lot of focus and Sign. This is exactly what I was saying and wanted to see coming out from Sign. This heavy engage because there is no burst damage like Li Ming or Greymane on the other side. So you know that you're going to survive for a while. If you get healed by Uther, even more. So going in all the dive, take all the aggro, take all the skills out so that Li Ming and Greymane can dive in and look for those kills. That's exactly what they did. And using the Disintegrate right before the Cocoon, did lose them some time, but they brought it together.
Yeah.
This is exactly how they have to do it every single time. And maybe once more, they will catch up in the EXP, even take the next boss on top.
Sign, he didn't take the haymaker here. He took Avatar instead. He's just going to walk in, base check this bush. Has so much support coming in from the symbiotes here. The Divine Storm is good, and so many resets coming out for Honkono. He mounts up here. He's on the pleb horse, but he's going to get the last kill there. Tommy's got another death there on the Rhaegar, and that is likely to be game over. No way for MVP Miracle to defend. The core is under attack by catapults, but they were damaged earlier, so the minions should be able to clear those. It was all dealt with, actually, by Lockdown with Abathur, so cleared those catapults earlier, so even though the core is taking damage, they will win the race, and they will win game number 1. The better team fighting comp wins out. It turns out that a composition of solo DPS Cassia with Lost Vikings, double support Rhaegar Ariel with only a Nubarak as your main tank isn't enough to give you victory, even on a map such as Warhead Junction.
Not in the late game, and especially when Sign takes heavy impact, gets like 4-man stunned with 1 Dwarf Toss. That's exactly what they needed. Few more CCs, just choosing that talent over the others. It makes the entire difference, and choosing the right targets to focus when they're all together, perfect chance for Leeming to pour all the damage into multiple targets and look for those kills.
I mean, he was just jumping in and flattening them like Goombas, man. He was taking them out. Heavy impact was made quite a heavy impact, you could say, in that game.
For sure, yes.
I think Miracle came in a little bit disorganized for this draft. The execution by Sniper, though, was perfect. You could tell he knew the timings of all the warheads perfectly. Each and every time he had Eric and Baylog pre-positioned right before the spawn. It was like magic. Like, he was always there to get the warheads while also heavily microing Olaf. Sniper's an ex-StarCraft 2 champion. He is actually a GSL champion, so when you think about that and his multitasking abilities coming from StarCraft 2 before he became a Heroes of the Storm pro gamer, it's no surprise he has good multitasking, but the understanding of the timings, the bribe usage there, the heavy lane pressure, the concepts were good, but it seemed like Tempest just kind of already knew how to deal with it. They were moving around as 4, they were pushing the Vikings back, they were getting structural damage done, and at the end when it had to be team fights because bosses were getting more and more scaling, when Miracle couldn't deny the bosses without team fighting, the bosses were doing work, and that last boss was going to get the keep at least for sure. They had to deny the boss, otherwise they probably would have lost the game, so they lost that team fight.